E, it's wonderful to be with you again. How are you? Look at you. I mean, you are a new man. You're sitting in a beautiful, grand apartment and in
That's right.
Southeast Asia,
Right.
and
I've
you've
abandoned
got
the squalor of the
yeah.
residence in.
I feel like I'm talking to Andrew Tate in Romania right now. I want to make sure that we bring up Andrew Tate in every episode. So, um, you're like you have
Yeah, yeah,
your Romanian staff or whatever, or your workers, your worker bees around you. I think I saw some shadow pass behind you. She's cleaning and making sure everything's polished. What is it like living your new grand life?
yes. Well, so I just moved with my family to Jakarta, Indonesia.
Wow.
It's amazing. I'm going to be working here for a little bit, covering economic issues. And so, yeah, I mean, it's nice to live in a place where the dollar stretches a lot more. That's very nice.
How much can you buy? Give us a few examples. How much can you buy like a meal for, a coffee for?
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
that look
yeah.
like?
So, it's like with everything, right? Because I've lived in a couple of different places. And if you eat like locals eat, then you
Hmm.
could be spending like $2 a day on food,
Right. Wow.
right? Like you eat out of the food cart. And, on the way to where I live in a big apartment building. Uh, there's like people selling on the side of the road. They're selling like meatballs, like Indonesian style meatballs, and it's something like 30 cents for that meal.
Whoa.
Now I will spend $1.50 on uh, the deparasite medication that I'll have to take if I actually eat there.
Right.
But it's like everything, right? So if you've ever been right to like Thailand or even Latin America,
Yeah.
if you have a stomach conditioned to living in the United States, then yeah, I mean you can't really eat any food that might be like a vehicle for bacteria that you're not used
Right.
to and get you very sick, right?
True.
And so also like kind of like hygiene standards and stuff, right? Things like what is the E. coli, stuff like that.
Oh.
So you have to be very careful, right? So in order to shop or eat at places that won't get me sick, then yeah, I'm actually spending what is considered a lot of money locally, right? So the real sweet spot is finding a place in a developing country where you can actually eat the food and not get sick. And
Hmm.
so and that exists. It totally exists. I used to
Yeah.
eat all the time in like Bangkok. I used to eat out of carts and stuff, and
Sure.
for some strange reason, I never got sick, and I'd be spending maybe like $1.50 on a
Yeah.
meal there, and it's a great meal. Here, I haven't found that yet. I'm gonna ease into it
Okay.
just because I've never been here before, and so I feel like if I start to look for a cheap meal, it might cost me more than I'm
That
bargaining. But
could cause
yeah,
you a lot.
so just for an example, right? Yeah, it could cost me a lot more than I imagined. Although I would no longer have to take any weight loss drugs. That'd be great. If I survive
Do
it.
you know if they allow, I
Um,
guess you'll find this
but
out,
no,
hopefully not, but do you know if they allow free range of antibiotics? Like, I guess the reason I ask is one of the issues when I lived in Thailand was that they didn't have any rules about antibiotics. You could just go to the pharmacy, ask for any antibiotic you wanted, and they would happily give it to you. They even recommend some. And the problem with that was that I would take these antibiotics when I had stomach issues, and then they wouldn't work because they were already highly resistant to all the all the antibiotics that they were dishing out like candy, which I felt very frustrated by because there's nothing worse in the world. I will say that you're like on your flat on your back and you're praying to the heavens, and then my wife came in. She's like, "Here, the pharmacist said to take these. They're the right ones." And you take them, and you feel better for about a day, and then suddenly it starts to turn back, and it's now worse than before. And you're just like, oh, now what? What happens now? So anyway,
yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering, I find that countries that say no, we're not going to just let you have as many antibiotics. You have to go see a doctor. The antibiotics work a little better. Do you know what the situation there is?
Oh, it's interesting. Uh, I don't know,
Okay,
but let's check back in a month after my
we can ask
first,
AI next time.
you know, silhouette altering stomach disease.
Yeah.
I will say this though. So one thing we have a, we have a baby at home, and I have a 6-year-old boy. We've talked about it before. Being here definitely because we can afford to have help. So and we're paying like above market rate
Right.
for our
Okay.
nanny, but we have a nanny who comes in and works eight
Wonderful.
hours a day, and that is like a $400 a month, which is on the
Amazing.
expensive side for that kind of help.
Amazing.
She has an excellent, very legal contract
Hmm.
that gives her
Oh,
for a
$400 is
local.
probably quite a lot of money. I wouldn't doubt it.
It's a ton of money and
Hmm.
a ton of benefits. So, which I
Yeah.
mean, I'm happy to provide because I can, right?
Yeah.
So, and we have a driver who likewise that's like $350 a month.
Amazing.
So, I mean, that gives you an idea of
Yeah.
what expenses are and stuff like that.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So, happy to have all the help we can get, especially because this is a country where they drive on the left side of the road. So I
Sure.
wasn't excited about driving, and I
Hmm.
bought like this used SUV that we go
Cool.
around town with. We're going shopping and stuff. But yeah, it's been
Smart.
great being here. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't been here for very long, and already we're trying to get used to having help and then living in a nice place, which we
Yeah.
did not earlier.
Yes.
Back when we lived in the
That's exciting.
States, yeah, our salary is average,
What's going to
so
happen
it
is
gets
that
you
as we
average.
talk, my wife and I will start to say, "What are we doing? We need to go live in Jakarta with with E." Oh, I was almost gonna get through this
Pee Wee Herman.
without a
Pee Wee
sip.
Herman.
Pee Wee Herman.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Pee Wee
Good.
Herman.
Thank you for that. Yes. Good point. Pee Wee Herman. We were almost. So anyway, we're gonna want to come and live in Jakarta soon. I have no doubt because it's it's something we've already thought about. We've already the number of times we plan to leave to go off to save money and get like a nanny and stuff is we could just like if for every dollar we would have $1 million in there. We were really literally going to move to Playa del Carmen as of 3 months ago. Somehow that's kind of stalled out, but we have talked a lot about Thailand again and some of these other places where yeah, it's cheap, it's good, it's fun. I would say with the food, by the way, I made the mistake when I was in Thailand. Somehow my intuition, oh, you know what? It wasn't just my intuition. It was of a vegetarian that I knew. And she had all like, she would claim whenever I'd get sick, she would be like, well, the reason you're getting sick is because you're eating all that meat. And I would listen to
Boo.
her and I'd be like, oh, maybe she's
Boo.
right. And I would
No, it's dumb.
internalize it. And then I'd be like, well, I've got to go find some salad. So I'd be running around town finding
Ugh,
places to have salad. And then I'd keep
no.
getting sick.
Yeah,
And
because you're
years
eating
later, I
salad.
realized no, it's the opposite. It's the reason you never got sick at
Opposite.
those stalls is because they're cooking the crap out of that meat in a wok or whatever. There's not, it's the salad
Yeah.
that's your danger.
By the way, I don't want to go on a tangent. It's easy to beat up on vegans and
She was a
vegetarians.
vegan, yes.
Yeah, ugh. Well, anyway, it's fine. It
It is
is.
fine.
It really is. Be whatever you want to be. I
Yes.
don't care. However, it is interesting to me. I noticed, and I mean, I do this. Like whatever your carefully constructed identity is based
Yes.
on, right? Like, okay, you're a vegan, you're a strict evangelical Christian,
Yeah.
or I don't know, a Satanist, and then someone says, "Oh man, I keep getting sick," and then the vegan's gonna be like, "Yeah, it's because you're eating meat. Meat is
Right.
poisonous." And don't you know? And there's all this like information, misinformation, disinformation out
Yeah.
there on any topic you like, right? And
Yeah.
I floated around the woo-woo conscious community for a little bit, so I'm aware of the insane dangers of pressed seed oils, processed food, and
Right.
meat, but also of grains.
Yeah.
Because you see,
Nice.
Kay,
Thank you.
uh, the agrarian revolution was only 40,000 years ago. So
Mm-hmm. It's not much
anytime you
time.
eat a grain, it's like poison
Yeah. Yeah.
Also meat. Meat is also poison. Also milk. Milk is poison. We're the
Right.
only mammal that drinks milk until its adulthood. Not true, by the way, but okay, fine. It's all poison, and it's such bullshit to me. Whatever your thing is, that's what everyone blames for everything, right? So vegans
Right.
like you're sick because you're eating meat. The
Mm-hmm.
evangelical Christian will say, well, you're sick because you don't bring Jesus into your life. And then the Satanist will be like, if you were just to accept the warm embrace of Satan and hedonism, maybe you wouldn't be sick all the time. I don't know, right? Like everyone's got their thing. And by the way, God bless you. I don't know where I heard this, but I read or someone told me that your religion, and I consider being a vegan a religion. Your religion is kind of like your penis. I'm really glad that you have one and that you're proud of it, but just don't show it
I don't want to
in
see it.
public
Yeah. Good
and leave
point.
me out of it.
That's good. That's
And,
good.
and that's fine. Although there are people who love penises and they'll be very
Oh, yeah.
interested
You
in
know what?
yours, and
Exactly.
and those people I think should meet each other and be very happy together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't know. Yeah, it's because you didn't read enough L. Ron Hubbard books. That's why you got sick in Thailand.
Right. Well, it was a distraction, and unfortunately, if I had thought on kind of what is it, first principles about what could be causing that besides meat, I probably could have avoided more of that. So anyway, now that said, you are under the clock because you have a, an upcoming
Go to a
massage.
massage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was
man.
just thinking to myself, what kind of deadline is that? I mean, what kind of deadline is that? You're living the life now. You've got a massage coming up. It's probably a $4 or $5 massage, full
That's
body.
it. Yeah. I mean, I start working in earnest next week. I kind of got settled first, so my
Oh, good.
family could have everything they wanted. But then once that happened, Kay, I made a little bit of time for E. You know what I mean? And I don't mean
Good.
the drug. I mean myself, my
Yes.
ridiculous
Getting high
anonymous
off yourself.
eating. That's it. Which is, kind of what vegans do. So I kind of
Yeah.
maybe I should be a vegan. I don't know. I would lose weight. I'd probably be healthier. I
Well,
mean,
I think I just heard Lizzo state that she is now losing weight once she stopped being vegan. So I'm not always sure it works that way. But
oh
anyway,
really? There must have
yeah,
been a lot of people who love that piece of music, right? Because
right,
whatever. Every now and then we'll get an out of town visitor and they'll say they're vegan, and the first thing I say is, "Do you run into? You must run into people who hate that." And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Why do people have such a strong opinion about your diet? If it's your diet and you're not sitting there, you know, judging people for eating meat or yelling at them, who
yeah,
cares, right? If you're vegan and we're gonna hang out and it's like, oh, what restaurant are we gonna go to? And they say, well, can we go to a place with a vegan option? I mean, most restaurants have a vegan option, and most vegans I know are perfectly willing to sit down and have like a raw vegetable plate with a little thing of ranch, because it's not about the meal, right? It's about sharing stuff, and people I know get bent out of shape if they have to accommodate suddenly a vegan. They just hate the idea, and it's funny to me.
yeah. Well, it
But
depends on the vegan. I've met a number of
it
them, and
depends. Oh yeah,
some of them
man.
can be very
Well,
strong-minded. In fact,
you spent a lot.
I used to be in a vegetarian vegan group when I lived in Los Angeles, and some of those vegans. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'm glad about the massage. I'm glad you're living the life. I don't have a massage scheduled this week for myself or next week or anytime, but I will love to hear about that lifestyle. I miss that lifestyle. I kind of miss that wild culture of just, telephone poles and wires all over the place and just like
mm,
the busyness of motorbikes and all this crazy kind of hectic stuff. I mean, I loved the energy when I lived in Thailand of that, and I really miss it. And surprisingly, you know, some of the best coffee, some of the best food I've ever had at the same
mm.
time. I loved just those kind of scenes. And I haven't been to Indonesia, but I've heard amazing things. So hopefully you'll get to experience that. Um, that said, I thought we would talk a little bit. We were talking last week about existential fears of what it's like to support a family. This is kind of becoming a theme for us a little bit.
Yeah,
And
work,
yeah, work.
meaningful work in this economic
Hmm.
in the capitalist economy
Right.
how do you define yourself as a person? How important is work to you? And I don't mean this in an annoying, like, master's degree hypothesis way where like a bunch of people whose schools getting paid either by their parents or a scholarship muse on, but the abstract evils of the economy. There
Right.
is always an economy, whether you're
Hmm.
stalking bison and
Yeah.
living off of gathered fruits,
Right.
like there is an economy, right? So I'm not angry about it. It's what there is. And so you can either deal with it or bang your head up against the wall. There are people who love banging their head against the wall. Some people have changed the world by banging their head against the wall.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. So, how do you deal with it, right? So you and I are squarely in the camp of, okay, this is what we got. Let's not judge it. Let's just participate. And how do we deal emotionally, psychologically with this idea that, yeah, I mean, what do you do for work? And there are
Yeah.
people who would say, well, if you lived in a different society, it wouldn't be such a dire crisis, right?
Oh,
I know
that's
people
interesting.
who are not worried about losing their job, and most of them are my cousins in Europe. But
Yeah.
that's not our situation, right? And it's a
Right.
trade-off. I've spent a lot of time there, our family there in Europe, in Western Europe. I think I've mentioned it with Spain, but and it's great. I mean, it's fun to visit, and I like the culture. It's kind of a big part of who I am, but I wouldn't want to live there. I just really wouldn't. And so, to me, how do we deal with this, right? And it's very
Yeah.
much about who we are, our identity, and where we live in this moment. Being in the U.S., being men who are fathers and husbands with a family. I think both of our wives are very happy to contribute to the money side of things, but
Sure.
uh, at least my wife really contributes on the internal house stuff,
Yeah.
and then I focus on the external stuff. And so I kind of see it as my job to make sure that this family is taken care of, its economic external needs. So what happens when that gets threatened? We talked about it last time in my
Yeah.
case. But yeah, I mean, I think you have a great more to add to that conversation, which I think is a
Well,
common concern, right?
I was taking a walk earlier today, and the feeling of money came up again because, again, I'm an entrepreneur, and I was mentioning to you before we started recording that I definitely feel the ups and downs of income as it comes in. Sometimes our business is very seasonal, and so there's times where I feel like everything's great, and then there's other times in the year where I feel like I'm panicking, and money is not coming in, and it's just slow, and I don't know why. There's often just these waves. I don't know if you've. I used to work at a coffee shop, and I would notice that there'd be these strange waves for hours at a time where nobody would come in, and then suddenly everybody's coming in all at once. And so that's kind of how I've
Mm.
seen money and payments and transactions happen in our business. Is like it's empty, it's completely dead, and then suddenly everything all at once. And when you're in those drought times, it can be very intense and very scary. So the past couple of weeks has been kind of like that for us. So I'm right in the middle of it, and there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of my mind thinking, oh, will this ever change? Will it ever turn around? Will there be enough? And as I was walking tonight, I kind of, to what you just said a second ago, I was thinking, how old must this thought be in the human mind? If you think about this concept of like a salary, this is a pretty new concept for us humans. Like how
Mm-hmm.
far does that go back? 100 years, 200 years? Probably not more than a few hundred years, maybe 300 at most. I don't know, depending on where you were. There would often be, and if you were a farmer, it really you're at the mercy of so much, of so many things out of your control. You're at the mercy of the rain, and you're at the mercy of the winds, and you're at the mercy of whether people will have the money to buy your crops. And there's all these things that are constantly, and this is just if again, you're someone doing irrigation, all that stuff. And then you think about hunting. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. And you think about livestock. There's all these
Yeah.
different, there's all these different occupations that never had much security. And only until the last 50 to 75 years, maybe 100 years, do we now have this concept of like a steady paycheck that's always coming in and always good and always, just. And I was thinking like, wow, this is like a thought that's thousands of years old if you really think about it. And what can I do about that if if you think it's nothing new? That might be helpful. I was thinking like what's helpful for me about that concept is, can I get to a place where, despite what's happening, despite the transactions, whatever that are coming and going, I can begin to just relax and lean into the unknown, lean into the mystery, lean into the fear a little bit. And kind of to that point, um, there seems to be an element where um, well, you always have a choice with this stuff. Either you're gonna freak out and continue to upset yourself, or you're going to just kind of relax into it. And I guess what I was realizing today is when I had that steady income, this is what kind of occurred to me. The last time I had a really steady job, I thought to myself, wow, if only I had a steady job again, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't I feel so much better? Wouldn't I feel right now the desire I want to feel, which is just peace and
Mm.
stability and calmness? And then I went back to actually look at how I did feel when I had it. And what I remember feeling was dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
And I just thought, isn't that interesting? Like the promise is, oh, if I just had the XYZ, then I could feel, then I could relax, then I could be at peace. But actually, when I tracked it, the whole time I had a job, I was dissatisfied. Yes, I felt secure to some extent, but I felt very like uneasy and like, well, I'm not where I should be. I need to be higher. I need to be promoted. Why did that guy get promoted? That's not fair. And why is this guy always getting liked by the boss and I didn't get that like? And then and it's just all this, and here I am at this age and I'm not where I'm not as far as him. And I do remember there was a guy I used to work with, and he was almost, I think he was a year older than me or younger than me, maybe older, but he was like 3 levels higher, and he just came in out of nowhere into my organization. And people would often like compare us because we both had the same name and we were both into kind of tech.
People would always kind of compare you because you're two young tech white guys, and that's basically an archetype.
But he was, and I remember he had a nicer car than me. And I remember, instead of being at peace, by the way, which is what I could have felt if I so chose and just enjoyed everything, I was very frustrated by him. And I let him be my demon, my
Mm.
tyrant, and ruin this peace. And years and years of this, of nothing. And I don't even know what happened to the guy, but I just know that I decided to make him more important than my peace, effectively. And if I could do it again, I would do it differently. So that's just my
Would
thought, is
you
that
would you
you
embrace this interloper? Would you confront him in a moment of honesty in the elevator and hug him and whisper into his ear gently, "It's okay.
we're one. You and I are the
It's
same.
all gonna be okay."
He might embrace me, but yeah, he might have felt that way. In fact, I
Probably
also had, what
he would
was
have
that?
broke down in tears. He would have
We
broken
could have
down
had
in
a
tears,
real moment. We could have had a beautiful moment,
but you're too
Blank and
selfish.
I. But what I would say is I made that decision unconsciously. I will give myself that credit, but I made that decision to take a peaceful situation and find a problem.
Yeah.
And then and the question is, am I doing that now? I have an excuse
Mm.
that I need that stability to feel better. But if I had that, clearly that didn't take away the uh the anxiety. So is it a choice, or is it, and how much of a choice is it? So what are your thoughts on some of that?
No, I mean, I obviously have felt the exact same thing. I've always had that conflict of, if you really sit down and look around and you see everything that you do have, then you can be very happy with the situation you're in. And just so I'm not speaking in the abstract, I don't think it's useful to talk about the abstracts
Yeah,
most of the time. So I'll just talk about how I have personally, just examples, right? Like it happens even now. I think about how dissatisfied I was when I was single, and I had all this anxiety about,
mm,
am I have I been with enough women, which is like a crazy thing to feel, but I think that's a thing that men often get pushed into feeling
mm,
because it can, sometimes your identity as a man can be defined by women. How many
yeah,
women have you been with, right? And
hmm,
then that is a mark of the man, which is a really weird way to do it.
sure,
But I used to feel that pressure. I think, yeah, when I look at my life now, I'm just so, really am so deeply satisfied. I'm almost kind of surprised,
Mm,
delightfully surprised,
nice.
that after having spent so much time not satisfied with very great conditions, things were always great, really, if I think about it. I was never really satisfied. And now I just feel intense satisfaction
Mm,
at my life circumstances. And, day to day, I try to order on a food app and the food doesn't come on time, or it's not the thing I ordered. I
right.
might get upset. But overall, uh, my ability to be happy with what I have is the highest it's ever been, which is really weird because it's not always
Why
been
do you
that
think
way.
that is?
I think I don't know. I've had the status quo disrupted so many times
Mm.
that just the stability. Also, I've often gotten things, okay, that I thought I wanted, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
so satisfied. I guess I just learned that
You were
that will
so
always happen.
dissatisfied?
Yeah, I've gotten things that I thought I wanted, and
What's an
then
example of
been.
this? Why
It's
not?
like
No
a
one knows who
it's
you are.
it's like a dog. It's like the dog that catches the car,
Yeah.
right? Well, I was a late bloomer. I didn't really kind of have any sort of relationships with women until I was like 21. I kissed a girl for the first time,
Yeah.
and I obviously we immediately got married,
Of course.
and then
Did you?
what did you do? And then I got divorced because that what a crazy thing that is.
How long were
I
you
got
married again?
in my late 20s. Say that again.
How long were you married for?
I was married for 2 years. We were together
Okay.
for quite longer than that,
Yeah.
and I got divorced. And I was overweight. I never thought I was very attractive. I, still combed my hair like a kid. I let my mom buy me my clothes, embarrassing stuff. And I thought I would die alone. And I was like 29. It's like,
Sure.
okay, well, you have plenty of time to go chase what you want. And I thought, I'll be euphemistic here for our Christian listeners. Uh,
Mm.
I thought, quote unquote, dating around a lot would make me happy and make me feel like a real man, but it didn't. And I gave that a go. And then I thought, well, I need to be in a relationship. And so I was in a relationship and it was not satisfying. And then so I started dating again a lot. And then that was not satisfying.
Mm.
And then I think that was it, right? It's like this process. I recently got married a few years ago. I'm in my mid 40s. And it was just the right age for me to actually have a family and a life and children and to enjoy being
Mm.
around children. And there are times where it's really hard, where it's not fun, where it's not comfortable. I wake up every night. I never sleep more than an hour and a half, 2 hours in a row because we have a newborn and she's adorable. But it's just like I would like some more sleep. But I
Mm.
love it because that's what there is. You can't want to have a baby, for example, and also want to sleep the whole night through. You could if you had a night nurse or a night nanny,
Yeah.
but I don't want that. I want to be there for that kind of stuff. And you can't be married and live with someone else without conflict. You're human, it happens. I also happen to think that I cannot have passion without disagreement, and I want a passionate relationship with my partner. And so to me, everything that I want has all these other things around it that are at times uncomfortable or unwelcome, but it's all part of it. So I'm reminded that be careful of the things you wish for because you might get it, but also what do
Yeah.
you really want? So for me, I think about this all the time. I want to be married. I love being married and I love my wife. I love spending time with her and talking to her. And there are times where we're getting into ridiculous arguments. We actually had a slight argument about an hour and a half ago, and but it to me it's very clear. This is what being married is. This is what being with someone is.
Yeah.
You have the fights, you make up, that's nice. You have stability, calmness, then you disagree on something and then you work it out. Meanwhile, we have this 6-year-old in our house who watches everything we do, and he copies how we fight. He copies
Right.
how we criticize each other. So if you're going to fight and criticize each other, do it really well so he can learn how to do that really well, because that's what life
Mm.
is, right? And
Hmm.
I think I mentioned before, I went through this program that has been accused of being a cult. and maybe it is, I don't know, but it's a great cult. It's called Landmark Education, and they had this thing, various fora and classes, and in one of them, and I don't think this is violating the NDA at all, is one of their things is they say, well, your life is only as good as the problems you have. So do you want to have
Mm.
petty, boring kind of problems, or do you have big, fat, exciting problems? What kind
You
of
remind me
problem?
of a person we once both knew named I think I can say, can I say his name from college?
Is it JJ? Is that enough?
Yes. Yes. JJ. Is that, did we call him JJ? We didn't call
No,
him
but
that.
let's
But
call him
he would
JJ.
say that to me. He would say, I think he said that to you or me.
Well, JJ was a fanatic of Landmark Education. He is the
No,
one.
no, 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 no. This is a different guy.
Ah,
This is even further back before JJ. It is he used to say, let's just put it this way. If he were talking to you, he would say, E, you have good problems. The problem you're describing to me right now that you think is a problem, don't forget that you have good problems. There are people that have bad problems, and don't lose sight of the fact that you have this, you're lucky to have a problem such as your girlfriend and you are fighting or whatever like that. Or there's, and anyway, I thought it was very wise. He was also part of our staff, let's just say, kind of a wise, quiet guy. Maybe you'll remember his name, and I
oh
won't
wow.
say it.
Text me his name.
Sure. So anyway,
Well,
but
well,
you
well,
know,
well, anyway, I mean, all this is to say that there are days where I'm oh yeah, there are days where oh okay. By the way, the person we're talking about hated his life, so I'm not sure that's a great. He was one of the most unsatisfied, repressed people I've ever met. But from the mouth of babes, I guess. Um, for me, I think,
I
and
didn't
this is
say his
not just
name.
like a men's issue, right? This is like a people issue.
Sure.
Humans, if you really think about it, if you zoom out way back, and both of us have kind of been exposed to kind of Eastern philosophies that can sometimes deal with this in a way that we find more palatable because we are rejecting our Christian base. But all the religions, I think most forms of spirituality deal with the basic concept, and maybe they've arisen because of it. This basic concept that to be a human, the human condition, is you are born and you are made conscious of the fact that you will die one day,
Yeah.
right? Do animals experience this? I don't know. We haven't asked them. They haven't told us in a way that we can understand.
Yeah.
But we know that we are very conscious of the fact that we're going to die one day. Death is the high cost of living, to borrow the title of a comic book. Lady Death, huge bosoms, great comic book.
Hmm. Don't know that.
But yeah, to live is to one day die, and it wouldn't be interesting if you didn't die, because if you didn't know it was going to end, the whole thing would be kind of boring. Have you ever
Right.
played a video game? I remember there's this one video game uh, where we'd go to these airports. My dad was in the military, and we'd go to these airports, and sometimes the USO would have like games. Sometimes there'd be an arcade, and there was one in I think it was in Germany. We were stuck because the Desert Storm had broken out, and the airport and all the flights had gotten commandeered. And there was this really great airplane, World War II themed airplane video game. I think it was called 1945 or something, where
Hmm.
you're just flying through the air and it's like an overhead shot, and you're like shooting at incoming enemy. And we ran out of quarters. My parents used to give us 2 quarters for like a 12-hour
Hmm.
stop there, and we'd be at this game, but it broke one day, because
Hmm.
I think we ended up being there for like
Oh.
2 days. It broke at the end of like the first day, and it was on all the time, for free. You could play for free,
Oh, great.
but there were no enemy. It's just the
Oh
plane.
no.
You can make it go left. You can make it bank right. You could go up. You
Interesting.
could go down. You could even shoot the little guns and missiles,
Right.
but there were never any enemy. You're just flying over an infinitely
Yeah.
scrolling landscape.
Boring.
And it was super boring,
Yeah.
and no one someone would inevitably come up to it and start playing, but oh wow, it's playing for free. But then they get bored because there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
You can't die,
Right.
right?
Good point.
And I think that's
I
the
I
theme of
literally
a lot.
just had this happen because I have been building, or I built a kind of like an old retro game box
Oh,
using a Raspberry Pi, actually really fun. But anyway, I
nice.
downloaded Street Fighter 2 for my kids to introduce it to them, and I put it in training mode. And my 5-year-old, I gave her the controls, and she's beating up the other person, and the other person's not fighting back because it's training
Right.
mode. And after like literally 30 seconds, she was like, "This is boring," and I just thought, "Oh, but I
So
mean, you're learning," and it was just so clear that it was like exactly what you said. Doesn't you just know from a deep place of wisdom, everyone knows it's just boring to not have any challenge. And
yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's at the core of what it's like. For me in my life, I have noticed that I get scared. I got scared that I might lose my job.
yeah,
I have been laid off
yeah,
before. I'm scared of dying. I've
right.
been in situations where I thought I was going to die, and it was
Me too.
terrifying to me. And then it's easy to forget, right? You just, you know, binge series on Netflix and sit down and you're comfortable and happy in your life. It's not until you have some adversity that you're beginning to
Yeah,
realize that you should be grateful for what you do have.
right.
And I haven't even faced that much adversity. I've had a couple of scares, but I've had a very comfortable life, and yet I have learned to be really grateful for the things I have. And maybe it's because I know one day I may not have them. So to me, what just about your situation, right? Being an entrepreneur, not knowing if you'll be able to support your family, and especially in this country where there's not really much of a social safety net,
Right.
it can be scary. But I think life is supposed to be scary. It's just
A
like
little
how
scary.
scary and when. There are times when we are
Mm.
more ready for it to be scary than others, and there are times where me personally, I was recently when I thought that I might lose my job, and my wife and I came up with a backup plan. First of all, how great is it to be able to have a partner in your life that just says, okay, what are we going to do about it? Let's do it. Let's sit down
Mm.
and plan it out and doesn't panic and make it worse. That's an amazing thing. And when that happened, I was really grateful for her. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I picked a really great partner that she's practical, and it's like
Totally.
maybe she is not from the US, she's from a Central American country, and I thought maybe we just go back to your country and I find some job doing X. You
Yeah.
can go back to work because that's she was working before we met.
Cool.
And so and we live, maybe we live in her hometown, in the middle of nowhere, and we just sell coffee beans. I don't know,
Sounds
but that was amazing to
exciting.
me. It's exciting, and I did get a little bit excited when I thought I might lose my
Yeah.
job. It's really weird.
Hmm. Interesting. It is something where you have to make that click. It has to be like that switch that turns on, because I think you can really tell yourself a story, and you can use other people as proxies, like, oh, XYZ person, let's say, maybe you know them, maybe you don't. If I only had as much money as Elon Musk, I'd be so at peace right now, but would I be at peace? No, of course.
Yeah.
He's
Does
one of the
does he
most
look like he's at
Does he look
peace?
like a peace? Yeah, he's like the least at peace person in the world. And yet you could tell yourself, well, if only I was him and if only I was whoever, then I could feel whatever. Now there's a quote I was just pulling up because you were talking about death, and it just hit me that I had read this quote a couple of days ago. So Steve Jobs, I think he's giving this speech, and he's like, remember that you are going to die. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it, and that is how it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's a life-changing agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. So anyway, I liked that. Maybe I'm not sure. It is interesting, this idea of like following your heart. I've become a little more skeptical of that over the years, but at the same time, you and I are doing this podcast. There's no good reason for it. There's no you know, I don't think either of us are trying to get rich off of this podcast, and I don't think the stats out there aren't great. This is not 2009.
This
Um
is a deeply morbid and useless thing like life itself.
yeah,
You're right.
that's right. But I was thinking I'm
Life
enjoying
is podcast.
Life is a podcast. I'm enjoying doing it. Maybe the reason I'm enjoying doing it is because it is a way to express something into the world. And I feel like I do need, I've observed myself, and there is a need for me. I build software for a living. I do a lot of mechanical things. And so for me to have this sort of non-mechanical, non-practical outlet to be able to express myself, I realize that's important to me. And that is part of the following of my heart. It may not always make the most sense. It may not always be the most practical, but it's something that I feel I find myself doing a lot. So anyway, death, you're right. I mean, death is a great way of thinking about it. And what a great frame to bring into this conversation.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Is there are people, whatever your jam is, as long as it's done like intentionally, then your project probably has this really great amount of integrity to it in that it
Mm,
is like internally consistent. It's when we, and I have done this is why I say we, it's when we start daydreaming and sleepwalking,
mm,
and we have fooled ourselves into thinking something else, right? Like, I really want to get promoted. We were discussing earlier, a friend of yours who might be completely asleep and sleepwalking through life. You get handed expectations, you get handed
mm,
morality, you get handed values. What do you do with them? Can you pick new ones?
mm,
I've managed to do this at times, and at times I've not managed to do this. There are times where I feel inadequate. Is it because of what society has taught me to feel? Also, like, you you're going to have values, you're going to have expectations. The
yeah.
question is, where do you get them from, and is it something that you're okay with? As long as because this is the thing, right? I mean, we without we've talked about, we don't like the political discourse that is prevalent, because what is prevalent is what is the most dramatic and interesting, which can often be the most ridiculous or extreme. If I take this idea, I am somewhat of a liberal in some things and not in other things, but I know people who they say, uh, they believe that all cultures are great and that you can't criticize other cultures, cultural relativism. It has a hard limit, right? There are things I know
Mm,
are wrong, and I don't need to be a Christian or deeply religious to know that something is wrong.
right.
And this is one of the things that kind of bothers me sometimes about other liberal friends I have, is that they'll say, oh, well, these very limiting gender roles by you, E, saying that what you like about your wife is how feminine she is. That's misogynist. And I've talked to my wife about this 1,000 times. Basically, you are going to have values, you are going to have norms. And so my wife's gender norms for herself, she has an idea of what it is to be feminine and what she wants from herself. She's very aware that she gets cultural messaging all the time. She has gotten okay with it. I have received cultural messages about what it is to be a man in my own gender role, and I'm okay with it. We talk a lot about what the gender roles and expectations in society do to us and how do we deal with them. But you would have to deal with a gender role at some time. Like, if you're a very liberal person who doesn't believe in gender roles and nothing means anything when they say that gender is a social construct, my next comment is like, yeah, of course it is. There's a huge amount to what we experience in our culture that is socially developed. There's a lot of things that are based off of our biological truths.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great work from neurobiological researchers. There's one at Stanford, David Sapolsky. He's very great.
Mm,
He has a lot of interesting stuff on how biology and behavior are connected, right?
mm.
And behavior is a big part of culture. Oh, I have a tiny thing floating behind me. There you go. I'm currently in his room, which is the only place there's a desk.
Ah,
Anyway, I'm in my son's room. Anyway, so to me, it's like liberals act like you can just float freely, universally in some ether and never have to establish any gender norms or expectations. And you can respect everyone else's, like they're all perfect, but that's just not the reality of how we live our lives. I think there's such a thing as tolerance and respect for other people's beliefs and values. Absolutely. But for me and my wife, we have our own gender roles that we're okay with. My wife and I wouldn't walk across the street and then tell our neighbor how they should have theirs. That's what makes us liberal,
Right.
in my view. But that's not how a lot of people define that liberalism um, nowadays. Uh,
I feel like I'm so out of touch with that world. I used to be deep in that world. I used to work at a university, and um, and so did you, I believe. Well, no, I met you at a university, but anyway,
that's right. Yeah.
we were in a circle in which these things were discussed constantly. And then when I worked for the university and became more of like a leadership role and stuff like that, it was just ad nauseum. It was just
Yeah.
constant. Like I'd have to give workshops. I'd have to sit there and
Yeah.
listen to these workshops.
Yeah.
I remember disagreeing a lot, not all the time, but a fair amount. I remember thinking like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I knew that if I said that, it would be
Yeah.
crucifixion.
Which is the opposite of tolerance, but
Just
yes.
$1. It was just like, well, I'm not going to say that. But it was it was interesting that my whole life, every day, was listening to people have a lot to say about these kind of topics and arguing about it and like checking each other all the time
Yeah.
and
Yep.
testing each other to see if they're real and authentic. And I have to say I did a lot of I would say that I was pretty good. I was fairly bought into it all without much question, but there were things that I was skeptical about, and I would shut the F up about those things. I would say nothing. And I knew that was important if I wanted to keep my job and my status, was to say nothing. I had seen what happened to people that did open their mouths in disagreement for some things, and it was not pretty. And I just was like, well, I'm not going to, why waste my energy? And so, but I'm so out of touch with that world that when you say people are kind of like questioning the gender roles of you and your wife, I'm like, who the hell are these people? Are maybe you need to
Yeah.
move out of West Hollywood. Maybe it's time to really, get out of the neighborhood. I don't know. Where
Well,
is
not a
this
problem in
happening?
Indonesia, my friend. I'll tell you one thing. Now it's like my wife dresses like a loose woman and she has
Yeah,
tattoos.
that's true.
Terrible. So now we're back on the side of wanting people to be tolerant again.
That's right. I do remember when we were in Malaysia, the first hour we got there to the hotel, it was blazingly hot out. It was a hot summer night. We were going to go to this bar or club, whatever. And my wife and I walked out of the hotel, and she was wearing a tank top, kind of like looking thing with bare arms. And we walked out, and all these dudes were like glaring at us, half, turned on half angrily. And
Yeah.
she
What
said,
a
I
great
think
place
I
to
better
be.
go back and change. I said, yeah, I think we better go back and. So we went back, and she put on, more clothes, and it was fine. But
Yeah,
yeah, you
before
got to
she
be.
thinks someone having pure thoughts, how dare she? That
Yeah,
swallow.
exactly. You're the reason for my impurity.
Yeah.
We didn't want to get attacked that night. So I can see that you're now in a new world, yeah, new culture and a new, world where you're going to have to get used to that, and that's going to be an
Yeah,
adjustment, I'm sure. But
that's
at the
right.
same time, no one will question why you are oppressing her with your, wanting to be the man of the house or whatever it is
Yeah.
that you've been criticized for before.
Yeah, exactly. Not anymore, man. Just as long as I don't make her wear a burqa, we're all good, I guess.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, speaking of restrictive clothing, I have to go.
Yes,
Uh,
take that off.
and once again, I did this last week, and I really like this. Is that to
Okay.
prove that our podcast is just a conversation that we'd be having anyway, probably.
Hmm.
Uh, when this ends, I'm just gonna walk away. There's,
Oh, I
I think
see.
the very first week, I
We did
think
that.
we ended the podcast, and then we kind of stayed on the line, and we're like, "Oh, I think that went well. How are you doing? Blah blah blah." But
Yeah,
no, man,
that was
this
all
is it.
that's right. That was the fake stuff afterwards. This is
Yeah,
and
this
the
is Lizzie
recording
Week,
is the
man.
real, is the
Yeah,
authentic, and
what
then
you
after
see
that,
is
it's
what
just
you
like
get.
it gets a little awkward. We're like, oh, yeah, what are you gonna do today? So it's
No,
better to just end it here. That said, since you are saying that, do check out. This is the audience would like to know this too. That we are now live. We have a website now, amazingly.
Oh,
called Don't Tell My Wife Pod.com, I believe.
we're gonna get a
And
lot of people coming off of the wrong Google search.
however you got here, I hope you like it.
We
I'm all
inherited
for
Kelly.
any kind of,
We
that's right.
inherited Kelly Madison's database.
Right. Yeah, I hope so. I hope we get people from all over walks of life. Go to the site, check it out. You can subscribe on your Apple Podcast now. We will soon have Spotify subscription soon. And you can click to get to the YouTube. We have now a YouTube feed that is live and it is pulling our episodes into it automatically. So now every time we
Oh,
publish on at Apple Podcasts, it will automatically go on the YouTube channel. So it's all set up.
sucked
And
in.
so
Speaking of getting sucked in, I just want to
yeah.
say, just for anyone who's listening who's not you or I or anyone in our
Oh,
immediate family who might be listening to us, which once again, I squarely believe is all the people listening to it. But I'm assuming if there is anyone listening to it who does not know us personally, that it is part of some bizarre sex fetish in which you pretend you are eavesdropping on two friends talking to each other
huh.
while you sexually gratify yourself in a corner somewhere. I'm assuming that is
You got
the
to make those assumptions.
I'm assuming that is
I
where
always say
you
assume
are
the
right now.
best, right? So that's what you're
It
doing.
is.
You're assuming the
I think it
best.
will expand. I think it will expand.
Sure.
But
Well,
let's just say that's who's listening right now.
I haven't told
Sorry.
anyone besides my wife, including my wife actually, the name of the podcast. I haven't even told my wife except for once. So no one knows about this on my side. Maybe all your
Right.
family is listening. Is it possible that all your large family is
Only my
like,
wife knows about this,
okay, all right.
which is
Well,
also the amount of people I thought would give a shit.
exactly. So
And
surprisingly,
the
yeah,
perverts. So to the perverts out
right,
there
to
who
the
are listening,
perverts.
I just want to say that we welcome you. We are not going to
Sure.
judge
No.
why you are listening to this. And I apologize for mentioning you because I understand that whatever your fetish is about this is that we do not address the fact that you're here. So I
Hmm.
apologize, and we will
Okay.
continue to ignore you and not refer to you in
Right.
podcast
No.
episodes. That way, you can continue to pleasure yourself secretly while you're
Now,
listening.
if you are one of these people with a fetish listening, please click the like button on YouTube. And if you can, leave a rating, leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I don't think Spotify has a rating system, but leave a review, leave a comment if you're watching this
Pull up
on
your
YouTube.
pants, pull up your pants, take
Yeah.
off the gag. You don't have to take off the gag to type anything. I take that back. Sorry.
You can use AI now. Just
Yeah.
dictate it.
If you are
Um,
suffocating yourself, do pull a plastic bag off your head and
yes.
or the curtain. What's the little thing they use to tie the curtains at hotels? Get that out from around your neck and go ahead and leave a good
This is
review.
like a good PDA, public service, PSA. All right. Well, thank you for that. Sure, you saved
Yeah.
a couple of lives there. And remember, there's also a contact form. So if you'd like to be on the show, maybe you have an interesting story. Just reach out to us. We're kind of so small right now
We'll
that it
interview anyone.
could be
Cameras
anyone.
off, obviously, because
Exactly. You won't see us. You
we
won't
know
know us.
we know who's listening.
Exactly. So anyway, great. Well, this has been fun. Let's do it again. I
Yeah.
find these conversations interesting. I hope you all do too. And until next time, have a wonderful massage, E.
Thanks, man. Take care, Kay.
All right. What do they say to say goodbye in Indonesian? What do they say? What's the way?
Salamat
Putting on this
tinggal.
Salamantinga. All right, great.
Salamat tinggal.
Salamantinga.